Welcome to the channel. We're making astrology known and understandable as the #1 priority. I'm the Scottish astrologer, and in this video I explain the astrological physical workings of the human body. And now this knowledge is how I was able to rid myself of asthma, which I will explain when I get to the appropriate part of this video. Now the information I am about to read to you is nearly 400 years old, and it comes from an ephemeris for the year 1651, written by Nicholas Culpeper. Now what you're about to hear is personally one of the best and most important reads of my life. The information is extremely interesting and helpful, as I'm sure you will agree it's a true gem. So I hope you enjoy. Now, Culpeper is somebody that everyone needs to research more about. Okay, Culpeper is a true hero to the common man and a nightmare to the ruling class of his time. And the information he shared with the common man was a true gift, okay, of self-sufficiency through healing. So everyone needs to properly look into this guy and what he did and the work he produced and shared, and why he was a hero to the common man and a nightmare to the ruling class of his time. Okay, let's get started. An astrological physical discourse of the human virtues in the body of man. Now, human virtues are either principle for procreation or conservation, okay, and the administering virtues are attractive, digestive, retentive, and expulsive. Now, virtues conservative are the vital, the natural, and the animal. And by the natural are bred blood, choler, phlegm, and melancholy. Now, the animal virtue is intellective and sensitive. The intellective is imagination, your judgment, your memory. The sensitive is common and particular. The particular is the five senses of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and feeling. Now the scope of this treatise is to preserve in soundness, vigour, and acuity the mind and understanding of man, to strengthen the brain, preserve the body in health, to teach a man to be an able co-artificer or helper of nature, to withstand and expel diseases. This is what I'm about to read to you is all about, and the aim of Culpeper. In short, and in my own words, to teach man how to be a helper of nature, okay, in harmony with nature, and understand how to withstand and expel diseases for himself just by having knowledge. Okay, Culpeper goes on to read, I shall touch only the principal faculties, both of body and mind, which being kept in a due decorum, preserve the body in health, and the mind in vigour. I shall in this place speak of them only in general, as they are laid down to your view in the symphosis, in the former pages and in the same order. Okay, virtue procreative. The first in order is the virtue procreative, for nature regards not only the conservation of itself, but to beget its like and conserve its species. Now the seat of this is in the members of generation, and is governed principally by the influence of the planet Venus. It is augmented and increased by the strength of Venus, by all of her herbs, roots, trees, minerals, etc. The seat of generation is diminished and purged by those of Mars and quite extinguished by those of Saturn. Now observe the hour and medicines of Venus to fortify, okay, the seat of generation, okay, or Mars to cleanse the virtue, or observe the hour and medicines of Saturn to extinguish it. Now the conservative virtue is vital, natural and animal. Okay, vital being the vital spirit have its residence inside the heart, okay, and it is dispersed from the heart by the arteries and is governed by the influence of the sun. And it is so to the body as the sun is to the creation. As the heart is in the microcosm, so is the sun in the megacosm. For as the sun gives life, light, and motion to creation, so does the heart to the body. Therefore it is called sol corporis, as the sun is called cor colia, because their operations are such alike. Now, inimical and destructive to this virtue are both Saturn and Mars. Now, the herbs and the plants of the sun wonderfully fortify it. Now, the natural faculty or virtue resides in the liver and is generally governed by Jupiter. Now, its office is to nourish the body and is dispersed through the body by the veins. Okay, now from this are bred 4 particular humours, which are blood, choler, phlegm, and melancholy. And Culpeper goes on to read that blood is made of meat perfectly concocted. In quality it is hot and moist, and it is governed by the planet Jupiter. It is by a third concoction transmuted into flesh, the superfluity of it into seed, and its receptacle is the veins, by which it is dispersed throughout the body. Okay, so this is Culpeper talking about blood, how it works and what it consists of. And he says blood is made of meat perfectly concocted. Moving on, choler is made of meat more than perfectly concocted. It is the spume or the froth of blood. It clarifies all the humours, heats the body, nourishes apprehension, as blood do the judgment. It is in quality hot and dry, okay, and fortifieth an attractive faculty, as blood doeth the digestive, moves man to activity and valour. Its receptacle is in the gall, and it is under the influence of the planet Mars. Okay, phlegm, according to Culpeper, is made of meat not perfectly digested. Okay, it fortifies the virtue expulsive. It makes the body slippery, fit for ejection. It fortifies the brain by its consimilitude with it, yet it spoils apprehension by its antipathy with it. It qualifies choler, cools and moistens the heart, thereby sustaining it and the whole body from the fiery effects, which continual motion would produce. Its receptacle is in the lungs, and it is governed by Venus. Some say by the moon, perhaps it may be governed by them both. It is cold and moist in quality. Okay, so this is a key fact which I learned that helped me overcome asthma. What Culpeper had to say about phlegm. He said phlegm is made of meat, not perfectly digested. Okay, so my main problem as an asthmatic was too much phlegm in my lungs that coughing struggled to expel. So after reading this information, it made it clear to me that phlegm did have an important function, but I personally, obviously as an asthmatic, had too much phlegm being produced in my body, okay, in my lungs. And this information made it clear, okay, that what phlegm is made of is meat not perfectly digested, okay. So I thought to myself, I eat meat, so any meat I don't perfectly digest is going to be phlegm. That's what I thought to myself, so. And obviously I could have been wrong, but I decided to try excluding meat from my diet, okay, because I was a meat eater at that time. Okay, and I became semi-vegetarian, but mostly vegan. And after a month or two of no more meat, I no longer needed to use my blue Ventolin inhaler or my brown steroid inhalers. I could breathe easy again. There was basically no phlegm, okay, needing to be coughed up or expelled from my lungs, okay. It's a true miracle. So for asthma sufferers out there, try excluding meat from your diet. It worked for me, okay. And now, the ancient medical science I am reading to you was used for over 2,000 years, okay, but apparently this medical science was discredited in the 1800s, even though this science has actually rid me of a condition that modern medicine was only able to treat with inhalers and make manageable. So it's clearly obvious what has happened here is profits have prevailed, okay, because the way that actually does work, okay, is the way that costs absolutely nothing, okay. Self-healing through knowledge costs nothing. So all I am suggesting to people watching this who do suffer with asthma and they are meat eaters, exclude meat from their diet and let me know if this actually works for you, like it did for me. Okay, let me read on. Culpeper wrote, "Melancholy is the sediment of blood. It is cold and dry in quality, fortifying the retentive faculty and memory. It makes men sober, solid, and staid, fit for study. It stays the unbridled toys and soulrays of lustful blood. It stays wandering thoughts and reduceth them home to the centre. It is like the grave counsellor to the whole body." Its receptacle is in the spleen, and it is governed by the planet Saturn. Now, all of these humours, blood is the chief, and all the rest are but superfluities of the blood. Yet, they are necessary superfluities, for without any of them, man cannot live. Now, namely, choler is the fiery superfluity, phlegm is the watery, and melancholy is the earthly. Now, the third virtue principle remains, which is the animal. Now, its residence is in the brain, and the planet Mercury is the general significator of it. Now, Ptolemy held the moon signified the animal virtue, and I am of the opinion that both Mercury and the moon dispose it. And my reason is because both of them in nativities either fortify or impede it. Now, ill directions to either or from either afflict it, as good ones help it. Indeed, the moon rules the bulk of it, as also the sensitive part of it. The planet Mercury, the rational part. And that's the reason if in a nativity the moon be stronger than Mercury, then many times sense powers reason, okay, many times over. But if the planet Mercury be strong and the moon be weak, then reason will be the master okay, in despite of sense. So I think I'm going to leave it here for now, guys. I'll leave a link so people can read this ephemeris in full, okay? But the information I just shared with you gives you the greatest general insight, okay, into the occult, astrological, physical workings of the human body. It also gave you information on herbs, what planets' herbs will basically work to improve certain qualities inside the body or diminish them or clean them, okay? So a great amount of information in here, and also, like I've mentioned, the information about what phlegm actually is cured me of asthma. I no longer have asthma, and I had really bad asthma all my life, had asthma attacks and everything, and after listening to this information I no longer have it whatsoever. I've never needed another inhaler, never had any sort of attack, nothing. I don't cough up phlegm constantly like I used to, okay, or try to at least. So I'm super thankful for this information, and I hope that if anyone else who suffers from asthma does listen and try this advice for themselves, I hope it rids them of their asthma so they can also share that information. And before you know it, people will actually be able to rid themselves of asthma rather than just treating it with inhalers for their whole life. Okay folks, a huge thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell at the right hand side of the subscribe button. Until next time, take care.